Marvel enthusiasts have been buzzing with theories about a potential X-Men vs. Avengers face-off. Although Marvel Studios has not officially confirmed such a storyline, there are numerous signs pointing to its development in upcoming MCU phases. The X-Men 97 series on Disney Plus has been laying the groundwork for major events that could spark a monumental clash between these iconic characters. There's talk of bringing the Avengers vs. X-Men comic book event to the big screen, which could feature in MCU's Phase 6. This storyline might emerge from universe-colliding incursions, as teased in the Marvels and other MCU entries. Excited? So are we. Let's find out more. But before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Is X-Men vs. Avengers confirmed? The recent episode of X-Men 97 has dropped significant hints of an impending Avengers vs. X-Men event, stirring excitement for the future of the MCU's mutant narrative. In episode 7, the X-Men grapple with the aftermath of Genosha's fall and a devastating Sentinel attack. Rogue, in particular, postpones mourning to seek vengeance, leading her on a collision course with Captain America. X-Men 97 has certainly captivated its audiences, masterfully reviewing the cherished X-Men the animated series. As the series progresses, it expands the Marvel animated universe, with the 7th episode offering a glimpse into the potential direction of the show's confirmed future seasons. Captain America's cameo is thrilling, but it also foreshadows a possible seismic shift in the X-Men animated saga. The Avengers and X-Men have always had divergent philosophies regarding their superhero duties. The Avengers typically operate within governmental frameworks, upholding societal order, whereas the X-Men are often seen as outcasts, mistrusted by the very people they protect. This ideological divide could intensify into a significant conflict. Historically, the Avengers and X-Men have clashed in the comics, starting with their inaugural battle in Uncanny X-Men number 9 back in 1964. While the X-Men proved their mettle, the narrative hinted at the Avengers' superior strength. Over time, various encounters between team members have fueled debates about which side would triumph in a comprehensive battle. X-Men vs. Avengers 1987. Let's talk about this amazing comic first. The 1987 X-Men vs. Avengers comic series is a 4-issue miniseries published from April to July 1987. It presents a dramatic showdown between two of Marvel's most iconic superhero teams, the X-Men and the Avengers, with the fate of Magneto at the center of their conflict. The story begins against the backdrop of a cosmic catastrophe. Fragments of Magneto's former asteroid base, Asteroid M, have plummeted to Earth following its destruction. This event sets the stage for an intense race between the X-Men, the Avengers, and the Soviet super soldiers, each with their own motives. The X-Men aim to protect Magneto, who has recently undergone a change of heart and seeks redemption for his past actions. The Avengers, on the other hand, are driven by their duty to uphold international law and bring Magneto to justice for his crimes against humanity. The Soviet super soldiers also seek to capture Magneto, desiring to hold him accountable for his transgressions against the Soviet Union. Throughout the series, the characters' dynamics and development are given ample attention. The Avengers are portrayed as the premier superhero team, working with government approval and enjoying public adoration. In contrast, the X-Men are depicted as outcasts, feared by the very people they have sworn to protect. The series does an excellent job of balancing action with character development, ensuring that the personalities and motivations of the heroes are not lost amidst the chaos of battle. Now, let's take a good look at the comic issues. Issue 1. So, some meteors crash down, and it turns out it's part of Magneto's old base. The Avengers stop it from causing major damage, but pieces fall in other places, including Russia. The Russian heroes, with some help from Crimson Dynamo, contain the mess and want to capture Magneto for sinking their submarine in the past. Meanwhile, the X-Men are chilling by a lake when Magneto hears about the asteroid and figures it's his old stuff. He sneaks off to find the biggest chunk, but the X-Men follow, ready to stop him if he gets up to his villainous ways again. Magneto finds his old base and even his old helmet. He wants to sink the whole thing to avoid any danger, but the Avengers show up and mess up his plan. They try to take Magneto, but the Russians also arrive, wanting him for themselves. Things get messy real quick. Issue 2. Things went from 0 to 60 real fast. The Avengers and the Soviet super soldiers were locked in a fierce battle over Magneto, with the Soviets getting mind-controlled by Dr. Druid in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, the X-Men swooped in like protective eagles, determined to save Magneto from the Avengers' clutches. A superhero brawl erupted, but before things got too out of hand, Magneto woke up and yelled about his base blowing up. Captain Marvel, a speedster with cosmic powers, tried to zoom in and disarm the explosives, but it was too late. Boom! The whole thing went up in flames. Luckily, Magneto shielded everyone with his magnetic awesomeness, preventing any major injuries. With the dust settling, Magneto and the X-Men hightailed it out of there on their Blackbird, leaving a stunned Avengers team behind. Oh, and did we mention Dr. Druid snuck onto the X-Men's plane without them noticing? Issue 3. Remember those Soviet dudes stuck in mind control last time? Well, they finally woke up with a jolt. Gremlin popped out of his armor and gave Darkstar a good shake, snapping her out of Dr. Druid's spell. Now all riled up, they decided to join the Magneto hunt and settle some old scores. Meanwhile, on the X-Men's Blackbird, things were tense. Magneto was being unusually quiet about the whole Asteroid M situation, making Dr. Druid, who was secretly chilling on board, super suspicious. Magneto, sensing someone was onto him, started getting a bit nervous himself. Before things could explode, Dr. Druid tried to send a message to the Avengers, but the X-Men, not happy with the sneaky stowaway, attacked him first. Luckily, Rogue, with her power absorption ability, sucked up his powers and memories, confirming he hadn't spilled the beans about their location. Thanks to Dr. Druid waking up and alerting the Avengers, all three teams ended up in Singapore. There, the Avengers spotted Havoc and went in for the attack. But Rogue, ever the power sponge, absorbed another mutant's abilities, and the X-Men bolted to a nearby ship. Storm, not thrilled with Magneto's secrecy, confronted him on the ship, but their chat was cut short when the Soviets showed up, ready for another brawl. The battle got messy, and in the chaos, Crimson Dynamo decided to sink the whole ship. Just in the nick of time, the Avengers arrived to help everyone evacuate. The sinking ship exposed Crimson Dynamo's sabotage, and Magneto once again managed to slip away. Talk about a crazy turn of events! Issue 4. The Avengers stormed into a Singapore government office, demanding intel on Magneto. Tight-lipped officials initially refused, but the international pressure was on, and soon everyone knew Magneto was spotted. Even more shocking, the X-Men had surrendered themselves. Meanwhile, Magneto wandered the streets incognito, but his presence triggered a public outcry when someone recognized him. He was then rescued by three young mutants, Crawler, Slider, and Lako, who took him to their hidden haven, the Light. After initial skepticism, they finally accepted him as the real Magneto, and celebrated his arrival. However, their reunion was short-lived as they were attacked by unknown assailants. Magneto, despite his weakened state, helped them fight back before disappearing once again. Back on the scene, the X-Men, tired of being held in custody, decided to take matters into their own hands. They hijacked their van and literally flew away, leaving the Avengers fuming. The bold escape did not please Mr. Ronalds, a government official who chewed out the Avengers for letting them slip through their fingers. Meanwhile, Magneto was busy modifying his helmet with Lako's technical expertise when the Avengers finally caught up to the X-Men, revealing that they were following them to find Magneto's location. In a surprising move, Magneto teleported away most of the Avengers, leaving only Captain America behind. After a brief conversation, Magneto, in a shocking turn of events, willingly surrendered himself to the authorities. Back at the X-Mansion, Psylocke and Longshot watched Magneto's televised trial with growing concern. Things weren't looking good for him, and the tension escalated when it was revealed that Lako and Slider were killed during the attack on the Light, leaving Crawler as the sole survivor. In a final dramatic twist, Magneto used his modified helmet to break free from the courtroom, sparking outrage and chaos amongst the public. Blood Ties, 1993, Avengers X-Men crossover. This 1993 comic marked a double celebration, 30 years of both the X-Men and the Avengers, but instead of cake and party favors, they got a full-blown brawl in Genosha. This island nation, known for its mutant population, erupted in civil war thanks to Fabian Cortez, a baddie with a grudge against Magneto, the X-Men's biggest foe. Cortez, thinking Magneto was still a threat, even kidnapped his granddaughter Luna to protect himself. Luna's dad, Quicksilver, is an X-Man, and her mom, Crystal, is an Avenger. So both teams got dragged into the Genosha mess. Things got even crazier when Exodus, another Magneto follower, showed up wanting to kill Cortez and Luna. Despite their differences, the X-Men and Avengers teamed up to stop the chaos. They fought Cortez's mutant army, battled Exodus, and even rescued Luna. Let's look into it. Part 1. Genosha, a mutant haven, was plunged into chaos by a power-hungry villain named Fabian Cortez. He instigated a brutal civil war between humans and mutants, tearing the island nation apart. To add fuel to the fire, Cortez kidnapped Luna, the young granddaughter of Magneto, forcing her to witness the carnage he unleashed upon Genosha's capital city, Hammer Bay. Meanwhile, Nick Fury, the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., kept the Avengers on a tight leash, forbidding them from intervening in Genosha's conflict until the United Nations gave the green light. This approach didn't sit well with several Avengers, who felt the government was being overly cautious in the face of such a situation. Crystal, an Avenger, returned with someone they believed to be Luna. However, the Black Knight, a skilled swordsman, intervened, revealing the figure to be a Genosha mutant with a message. Genosha was on the brink of complete destruction. Professor X and the X-Men decided to take action. They split their team, with Professor X and Beast joining a government task force led by a US agent and Henry Peter Gyrick, while the rest of the X-Men followed close behind. Back at Avengers Mansion, the Avengers, fed up with Fury's inaction, defied his orders and decided to head straight to Genosha. However, S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were dispatched to stop them. Part 2. Cortez gathered a mutant army, including mind-controlled Genoshan mutants. Quicksilver, Magneto's son, watched as Cortez twisted his grandfather's ideas into a genocidal nightmare. Meanwhile, at Avalon, Colossus was conflicted about continuing to fight for others. He felt his purpose had shifted and decided to leave the X-Men to start on a journey of self-discovery. As Colossus departed, Exodus, a powerful mutant, remained a watchful presence over Magneto. Back on Earth, the Avengers defied S.H.I.E.L.D.'s orders and engaged in a clash with the government agents, trying to contain them. After the dust settled, a smaller strike team of Avengers, led by Captain America, assembled to head straight to Genosha. This team, composed of Black Knight, War Machine, Crystal, Scarlet Witch, and Cersei, left the rest of the Avengers to deal with the fallout from the UN. Professor X and Beast, separated from their UN allies, sought out the Genoshan mutant rebels, hoping to form an alliance against Cortez's tyranny. Near Hammer Bay, the X-Men found themselves face to face with Cortez and his followers. The Avengers arrived in Hammer Bay and encountered Exodus. Part 3. Back at the UN, things are getting heated. Hawkeye and the other Avengers who went rogue are hauled in for serious conversation. Hawkeye especially isn't holding back, letting the UN director have it about their inaction in Genosha. Meanwhile, in the war-torn streets of Hammer Bay, War Machine throws down with the powerful mutant Exodus, while the rest of the Avengers team try to keep things under control. Outside the city, the X-Men take down Cortez's forces and try to grill him for information. But there's a twist. Turns out, the Cortez they were fighting was actually a disguised Genoshan mutant. Back in Hammer Bay, War Machine gets his butt handed to him by Exodus after a brutal fight. And just when things couldn't get any crazier, Exodus sets his sights on Cersei. Part 4. In Hammer Bay, Professor X, Beast, and the US agent found themselves locked in a tense battle with the Genoshan magistrates. Their combined telepathic and physical prowess proved too much for the local authorities, and they emerged victorious. To their surprise, they discovered Henry Peter Gyrick, a government official, aiding a group of mind-controlled Genoshan mutants. Meanwhile, a battle raged between Cersei and Exodus. Back at the UN headquarters, Black Widow declared the Avengers' independence from the United States government. The X-Men, finally arriving in Hammer Bay, saw the aftermath of the brutal civil war. A few miles away, the fight between Cersei and Exodus was broken by the intervention of Black Knight and War Machine, who desperately tried to contain the escalating chaos and prevent further destruction. Deep beneath the Citadel, Jean Grey, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch found themselves reunited with Crystal. The reunion was interrupted by the arrival of Cortez, who used Luna, Magneto's daughter, as a human shield. Scarlet Witch, fueled by anger, almost attacked, but Quicksilver, understanding Cortez's manipulative tactics, held her back. Exodus appeared, threatening to kill Cortez for his betrayal of Magneto's ideals. Caught between Cortez's desperate pleas and Exodus' murderous intent, the heroes were unsure of who to trust. Part 5. Back on the helicarrier, Nick Fury presented the West Coast Avengers with footage of Genosha's descent into utter chaos. Even Black Widow admitted that prayer might be their only recourse at this point. In Genosha, a colossal force field was erected around the entire country, effectively isolating it from the outside world. Meanwhile, deep within the Citadel sewers, Exodus executed Cortez and took Luna hostage. The X-Men and Avengers joined forces to confront the common enemy, Exodus. Storm and War Machine attempted to breach the force field surrounding Genosha, but it was no use. Sensing their urgency, Professor X sent a powerful telepathic message, uniting both teams with him, Beast, Gyrick, and the US agent. Together, they faced off against the Genoshan magistrates and their reinforcements. After tending to the wounded, Exodus emerged and declared his path to utterly destroy Genosha. He proclaimed himself Magneto's sole heir, vowing to eliminate anyone who dared oppose his twisted vision of mutant supremacy, including the X-Men and the Avengers. With the Genoshan mutants ordered to kill everyone or face Genosha's annihilation by the force field, the X-Men and Avengers were forced into a desperate battle. They held back the mutant horde with all their might, while Professor X launched a powerful psychic assault on Exodus. This created an opening for the Black Knight, who swiftly knocked Exodus unconscious and rescued Luna from his clutches. Exodus unleashed a final devastating attack on Quicksilver before fleeing to Avalon. Quicksilver lay near death, but the Black Knight's swift CPR revived him, bringing him back from the brink. As the dust settled the next morning, Captain America and Professor X shared a conversation. The Genosha crisis had left them both deeply troubled, wondering about the future of mutant-human relations. Marvelous verdict. Well, thank you X-Men 97 for giving us some hope for the return of our favorite Marvel characters. If you haven't watched the show yet, then you should check it out right now. With Captain America showing up everywhere, there's a good chance that the crossover will soon take place. Do you have any more theories about how the X-Men vs. Avengers show might carry out? Tell us in the comments. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.